sparks in the void. The chamber was a cathedral of glass and steel, its vaulted walls humming with the energy of half a dozen suns. Stars burned behind the transparent panels, but no one in the Council of Ascendant Races dared look out at the void for long. The galaxy was at war again, and the enemy was not one of them. Ambassador Raeven Holt of Earth sat in the farthest chair of the circle, his posture stiff, his eyes sharp. The other delegates, scaled, feathered, crystalline, and ageless, barely spared him a glance. Humanity was a child among giants, admitted into the council barely 3 decades earlier. Raeven was tolerated, not respected. The discussion was about the Veylak Swarm. Their advance is methodical, intoned Chancellor HFY of the Veari, his translucent form pulsing with each syllable. They consume what they touch. Entire ecosystems vanish. Containment is our only path. We must retreat, quarantine the infected sectors, and hold defensive lines. A chorus of alien voices agreed. The plan was safe, conservative, predictable. Raeven leaned forward, his voice cutting through the droning consensus. You mean to abandon those systems? Billions of lives just written off. They are already lost, replied a Falthari elder, her insectal mandibles clicking with finality. Any who remain will be devoured. Better to seal the wound than infect the whole. Raeven's jaw tightened. The humans were the newest member of this august body, and they were expected to listen, nod politely, and keep their opinions to themselves. But humanity had never been good at keeping quiet. Containment won't stop them, Raeven said, his tone sharpening. The swarm isn't a wildfire you can fence off. It's a tide. You can only beat it by pushing back harder than it pushes forward. The chamber fell silent. A dozen alien eyes and sensory nodes fixed on him, some in annoyance, others in curiosity. You propose direct confrontation? Asked XYRR, his crystalline body flickering. Against a foe that has already devoured 2 of our member civilizations? That is not strategy. That is suicide. Maybe, Raeven admitted. He let the word hang for a moment, then continued. But history teaches us that survival doesn't come from playing safe. It comes from doing the thing nobody else is willing to do. From going too far. Murmurs rippled across the chamber. To the ancient races, such words were dangerous, even barbaric. To Raeven, they were common sense. The memory of Earth's own scars burned in his mind. Fire and bloodlines, mushroom clouds and collapsing towers. Humanity had never survived by being cautious. They had survived by reaching further, burning brighter, clawing their way through chaos when prudence demanded surrender. The Falthari elder hissed. You humans are reckless. You gamble with existence as though it were a game. Not a game, Raeven shot back. A habit, a survival trait. For a heartbeat, he thought he had gone too far himself. But then he saw it. Hesitation. A flicker of doubt in the Council's perfect logic. The thought that maybe, just maybe, the humans were right. Raeven did not press the advantage. He had planted the seed. That was enough. When the session adjourned, Raeven left the chamber with a heavy stride. His personal aide, Lieutenant Anya Rourke, fell into step beside him. She was young, uniform crisp, expression taut with concern. You really think they'll listen? She asked quietly. They don't have to, Raeven replied. We're not waiting for their permission. She blinked at him. You mean? He nodded. Admiral Voss and the fleet are already preparing. By the time the council finishes debating, humanity will have acted. Anya's breath caught, equal parts awe and fear. The fleet. It was a whisper even among humans. Project Longshot, the arsenal humanity wasn't supposed to build, weapons forbidden by interstellar accords. They'll call it madness, she said. They'll call it whatever they want, Raeven answered. His voice was low but unshakable. When the swarm comes, they'll see it for what it is, survival. And they'll see humanity for what we are. Beyond the station's windows, the void stretched infinite and dark. Somewhere in that darkness, the swarm was coming. And somewhere else, a human fleet waited, ships forged in secrecy, bristling with weapons no alien dared imagine. Raeven allowed himself a small, grim smile. History won't remember us for restraint, he murmured. It will remember us for how far we went.
The fleet that shouldn't exist.
The battleship Iron drifted in silent formation with her sisters, a black spear among shadows. Around her, more than 60 ships held station at the edge of the Andrus expanse, their hulls drinking in starlight. They were not the gleaming, graceful constructs of the Council races. Human warships were brutal silhouettes, armored wedges, bristling with weaponry that pulsed faintly in the void like sleeping predators. Admiral Kiera Voss stood on the command deck, staring through the forward viewport. She was lean, her face carved by years of war, hair tied back in a severe knot. Her uniform was simple, unadorned save for the crimson insignia of command. No medals, no flair. She didn't need them. Her authority was etched into the way every crew member snapped to attention when she passed. "Fleet status?" she asked. "Nominal, Admiral," replied Commander Ashan Malik, her second-in-command. "All systems green. Singularity torpedoes at full charge, gravitic lances calibrated. AI nodes are synced and waiting." AI nodes. Illegal under Council law. The very phrase would have sparked outrage in any chamber of governance. But here, far from prying eyes, humanity had built what it needed, not what it was allowed. Voss let the silence stretch before answering. "Good. Keep the nodes running hot. We may not get a second chance if things go bad." Her words were calm, but inside, she carried the weight of a decision that had already reshaped humanity's future. Project Longshot had been her idea. While the Council debated codes of ethics and the responsibility of advanced species, Earth had built weapons that could split moons, crack planetary crusts, and burn fleets out of existence. Every alien would call it reckless. Voss called it survival. She turned, walking the length of the deck. Screens displayed the fleet. Destroyers with plasma coils glowing faintly red, carriers releasing swarms of autonomous drones, frigates rigged with experimental stealth fields. Humanity's finest and most dangerous. "Admiral," Malik said quietly, leaning closer. "If the Council discovers the full extent of Longshot, they'll scream," Voss interrupted. "They'll sanction. Maybe even threaten war. But when the swarm arrives and they're cowering behind quarantine lines, who else will they call?" Her gaze swept the deck, hard and unwavering. "We're the only ones willing to go too far. That's our strength. That's our curse." A murmur of agreement rippled through the command staff. None of them had joined this fleet by accident. Every officer aboard Iron had volunteered, knowing they were stepping beyond the boundaries of law and reason. Voss activated a holomap. The Andrus Gate bloomed into light, a massive wormhole nexus that connected 3 sectors of space. Intelligence reports showed the swarm advancing directly toward it. If the gate fell, the swarm would have free access to half the civilized galaxy. Council strategy was simple: abandon the gate, collapse nearby systems, and delay. But humanity's fleet had not been built for delay. "Here is where we hold," Voss said. Her voice was steady, cold as iron. "We don't run. We don't contain. We break them here, or we break ourselves trying." The officers straightened. Orders like that might have chilled the blood of any other species. For humans, it was fire in their veins. Commander Malik hesitated, then asked the question others feared to voice. "And if we fail?" Voss did not flinch. "Then history will remember that we tried." She dismissed the officers and retreated into her private chamber. There, in the solitude of dim light, she allowed herself a single breath of doubt. She thought of Earth, oceans and forests, the laughter of children under a blue sky. She thought of what would happen if the swarm ever reached home. The images were unbearable. Humanity could never survive another species dictating the terms of existence. They had clawed their way to the stars with too much blood and sacrifice to let it all be consumed. Her terminal pinged. A secure message. It was from Raeven Holt. "Council still undecided. Endless debate. Assume no support. Do what you must. Humanity stands with you." Voss allowed herself the faintest smile. Holt had always understood. He fought battles with words while she fought them with steel, but their philosophy was the same. Do what must be done, no matter the cost. She straightened and keyed the fleet-wide channel. This is Admiral Voss. The swarm approaches Andris Gate. The Council would have us retreat. But we are not them. We are human. We endure by pushing further than reason, harder than hope. If we stand, others will follow. If we fall, she paused, her voice heavy with steel. Then let us fall as legends. The channel closed. Across the fleet, crews strapped in, AI cores thrummed awake, and forbidden weapons came alive with an ominous glow. In the silence of space, 60 human warships aligned their bows toward the abyss. The swarm was coming. Humanity was ready. The battle at Andris Gate. The Andris Gate hung in the void like a god's eye, a ring of ancient stone and alloy spanning 50 kilometers. Within its circle, stars bent and folded, light distorting into impossible shapes. It had stood for millennia, binding the sectors of the galaxy together. Now it was about to become a battlefield. Admiral Voss stood on Iron Will's command deck as alarms pulsed low and steady. Sensor grids lit up with red markers. The swarm had arrived. At first they appeared as shadows, blots against the starlight. Then the swarm emerged in full, ships shaped like predators, carapaces of living metal, thousands upon thousands moving with a singular purpose. The void rippled with their hunger. Enemy contact confirmed, Malik reported. His voice was tight, controlled. Numbers, Admiral, we're looking at over 2,000 vessels. The fleet numbered only 60. Voss nodded once. No fear showed on her face, only calculation. Signal to all ships. Engage. The void erupted. Human destroyers launched the first wave, swarms of drones streaking forward like silver sparks. They met the swarm head-on, colliding in brilliant flashes. The Veylak pressed through, their bodies adapting, absorbing, devouring. Launch torpedoes, Voss commanded. From the carriers, a volley of singularity torpedoes roared outward, each one a miniature black hole caged in containment fields. When they struck, the swarm dissolved in showers of broken hulls and warped space, entire clusters of enemy ships vanishing into nothing. The alien observers, watching through council channels, gasped. The use of such weapons was unthinkable, outlawed centuries ago. To humanity, it was simply another tool. But the swarm pressed on. Their ships latched onto human hulls, drilling into armor, spilling acid and flame. Frigates went dark. A destroyer split apart in a spray of molten steel. Voss felt the deck tremble as Iron Will absorbed the impact of enemy fire. Gravitic lances. Full power. The command deck thrummed as the ship's primary weapons came online. Space itself bent before them. Invisible streams tore through the enemy, ripping ships in half, folding their bodies into twisted wrecks. For a moment it worked. The swarm reeled. Humanity pushed forward. But the cost was brutal. Frigate Daggerfall destroyed. Resolute is gone. Drone carriers reporting total depletion. Every report was another knife in the gut, but not once did Voss hesitate. On the Council's observation feeds, alien leaders looked on in horror. They fight as though they intend to die, one whispered. No, corrected another. They fight as though dying is irrelevant. Voss's fleet fought like no other. Neuralinked pilots refused to disengage, even as their bodies failed, their hearts bursting under strain. Ships rammed headlong into swarm clusters, detonating their cores in fiery sacrifice. Humanity did not retreat. Humanity burned. Still the swarm pressed. Malik's voice cracked across the din. Admiral, they're breaching our lines. If they reach the gate. Voss stared at the gate, its impossible geometry bending before her eyes. There was one option left. The option no sane commander would consider. Prepare the wormhole destabilizers, she ordered. The crew froze. Malik looked at her, horrified. Admiral, a controlled collapse could destabilize the entire sector. We'll strand ourselves. We'll strand millions. Her reply was steady, merciless. Better stranded than consumed. She opened a fleet-wide channel, her voice carrying across the chaos. "This is Admiral Voss. The swarm cannot pass the gate. If we fall, we take them with us. Activate destabilizers." One by one, human ships obeyed. Energy surged into the gate's core. The structure groaned, reality itself trembling as the wormhole shivered. The swarm sensed the danger too late. A shockwave tore through the void, collapsing light, twisting stars. The Andrus gate shuddered and imploded, dragging hundreds of swarm ships into the collapse. The rest scattered, fleeing into the dark. Silence followed. Iron Will floated among wreckage, her hull scarred, her fleet reduced to fragments. Of 60 ships, fewer than 20 still burned with power. The wormhole was gone. The sector cut off. Malik's voice was hoarse. "Admiral, we've done it. The swarm is retreating." Voss looked at the ruined gate, at the shattered remains of friend and foe alike. Victory had come, but at a price few would dare pay. She closed her eyes briefly, then straightened. "Signal survivors. Regroup. We hold until there is nothing left to hold." The Council had wanted containment. Humanity had delivered annihilation. In the silence after the storm, one truth was clear. Humans would go where no other race dared, and survive, even if survival demanded going too far. The price of going too far. The battlefield still burned. Fragments of swarm husks drifted among human wreckage, the two indistinguishable now in the silence of the void. Here and there, crippled ships limped forward, sparks trailing from wounded hulls. The Andrus Gate, once a marvel that spanned generations, was gone. In its place hung only a ragged scar in space, light warping around the wound. On Iron Will's bridge, Admiral Voss stood like a statue carved from steel. She had not left her post for 20 hours. Around her, exhausted officers worked in silence, their eyes hollow, their hands steady only from habit. "Status report," she said finally. Commander Malik, pale and gaunt, forced himself to answer. 18 ships remain operational, half with critical damage. Casualty estimates 120,000 confirmed dead. More unaccounted for. The numbers were ice in the blood, yet no one flinched. Every soul aboard had known what they risked. Voss's gaze shifted to the wreckage beyond the viewport. They had held the line. They had destroyed the swarm's spearhead. And in doing so, they had destroyed themselves. A transmission pinged across the fleet-wide channel, a council broadcast. The council chamber appeared in holographic projection. Alien forms crowded the dais, their expressions a mix of awe and condemnation. Raeven Holt stood at the center, his suit rumpled, his eyes burning with defiance. "Humans," Chancellor XYRR began, his crystalline body shimmering with disapproval, "you have destabilized an entire sector. You have unleashed forbidden technologies. You have risked catastrophe beyond measure." Murmurs echoed through the chamber. Condemnation piled higher. But Raeven raised a hand, silencing them. "Yes," he said, his voice sharp as a blade. "We broke your rules. We used the weapons you feared. We risked everything. And while you debated, we fought. While you planned retreats, we bled. And while you prayed containment would save you, we saved you instead." The chamber erupted in chaos, protests, accusations, outrage. Raven's words cut through it all. "You call us reckless. We call it survival. You call us dangerous. We call it necessary. When the abyss came, we did not flinch. We went too far, and because of it, you still draw breath." For a heartbeat, silence fell. Even the ancient races had no words. They could not deny the truth, however much they hated it. On Iron Will, Voss listened to the transmission with expressionless calm. Raeven was fighting a different battle, one of words, one of reputation. She respected him for it, but she knew his speeches could not erase the cost written into the steel and blood around her. Malik approached quietly. "Admiral, the men and women are asking what comes next. Whether we return home." Voss's eyes stayed on the void. "We can't return. Not yet. The gate is gone. We hold this ground until relief arrives, or until we are dust." Malik hesitated. And if relief never comes? Her voice was flat. Then we will still have bought them time. She dismissed him and stepped into her private chamber. There, away from her crew, she finally allowed the weight to press down. Every order she had given, every sacrifice demanded, hung heavy on her soul. She thought of the families who would never see their soldiers again, of the generations who might never know how close they had come to extinction, and of the council, still blind to the truth. She whispered to the empty room, as if confessing to ghosts. We went too far, and it still wasn't far enough. Outside, the surviving ships burned their dead, releasing ashes into the void. The swarm was gone for now. Humanity had held, but at a cost so high the line between victory and defeat blurred. Back on the council world, Raeven stood before the assembly one last time. His final words rang across the chamber, recorded into history. Remember this day not for the weapons we used, nor the laws we broke. Remember it for the choice we made. When the galaxy looked away, humanity stepped forward. We will do so again. And when the abyss returns, know this. We will go farther still. The chamber was silent. No applause. No condemnation. Only the heavy knowledge that something fundamental had changed. Humanity was no longer the child of the stars. Humanity was the knife at their throat and the shield at their back. And in the quiet aftermath of the greatest gamble the galaxy had ever seen, one truth burned brighter than the ruins of the gate. Humans survived not by stopping where others drew the line, but by crossing it. Again and again and again.